This comment was left on a video about how I was describing differences between someone with narcissistic personality disorder and someone who doesn't, and how you can sort of spot the differences. And one of those differences is their intent. Are they intending to manipulate you? And I think this is a valid question. How can you tell someone's intent? You can't mind read. Are you just projecting that onto them? I think the answer to that is context clues. You're not usually looking at one particular instance or one particular event in a vacuum. There's usually other things that have happened around that individual that allow you to see a little bit more clearly about who this person actually is. Here's an example. I have a mother who's borderline who also has strong narcissistic traits. I have a long history of knowing her both with myself and also seeing how she's interacted with other people, about how she will do things specifically to spite other people. Like, I don't care, and what's the problem? I can't understand why someone would have a problem with me doing that. For example, there was one time where she called me in the middle of the day and told me that she had just scheduled a 2.5 long week vacation to Alaska. Great, sounds wonderful. If that happened in a vacuum and was just like that, fine. What's wrong with telling your daughter that you're getting ready to take a vacation to Alaska? What could possibly be wrong there? The intent is what's wrong there. So some added context, because you have to look at the context clues on things like this. If my mother ever had contacted me during the day, it was usually by text message. She usually never called me. So that's one contextual clue. Another context clue was that she was scheduling this vacation about 2 weeks before I was getting married in Hawaii. A third context clue is that I had invited her on 3 different occasions to come to my wedding in Hawaii, and she turned me down each of those times because she felt like I was putting too many constraints on her, because I didn't want her to let my narcissistic brother know what my wedding date was, because I didn't want to get all the phone calls and all the things that happen from a narcissist on important dates. Then you have to also add in the context that every time I spoke to her about my upcoming wedding, which again I had invited her to 3 times and she turned it down, and I would talk to her and be like, oh, I'm getting really excited, I just bought my dress, or I just planned this with the caterer, or I just did all these different things. And every time it was a guilt trip. I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there. And then I'd have to remind her, you can be there. I invited you to be there. There is a bedroom that is reserved for you. Would you like to come? All you have to do is not tell my narcissistic brother what my wedding date is. I even told her, I was like, you can tell him after the fact. I just don't want my wedding day to be ruined. But that was too much for her. So now when you go back into the context of that conversation, she calls me in the middle of the day during my lunch hour, which she never does. And then she tells me she's really excited about this great trip that she's planning to Alaska that happens to be about 2 weeks before my wedding. And she wants to tell me just how excited and happy she is and how I should be happy for her and and all these things. And all I'm thinking is, you decided to go to Alaska instead of come to my wedding. And there is a 100% probability that that was the intent, because she wanted to hear my reaction to it, of which I just gray rocked her and I was like, yeah, great. Then after I got off the phone with her, I literally crumpled to the floor immediately and started sobbing. And my now husband was like, oh my God, what happened? What's wrong? Like, it sounded like you were having a nice conversation with your mom. What happened? And I told him, and he was like, wow. He was amazed at the audacity. So understanding someone's intent, you have to look at the context clues. Things don't happen in a vacuum. They happen for very real and very specific reasons. And I have over 40 years of experiences with my mother on all kinds of different things that she's done, again, to me and to other people that I've witnessed around myself and also around her. With that being said, all of this is just for educational purposes. Nobody should just be out there in the wild, like diagnosing other people with narcissistic personality disorder. Ultimately, it comes down to a licensed therapist, if someone will actually go to a therapist and actually get diagnosed with it. But you can understand the toxicity and the traits that are around it, and that helps you to understand a little bit better of what is likely happening to you, so that you can decide what kind of relationship you do or don't want to have with that person.